Most people think quiet people don't have much to say, but that's rarely the real reason. In fact, some of the most talkative people you'll ever meet spend large parts of their lives saying almost nothing. Not because they're shy, not because they lack confidence, but because of something most people never notice: the environment. And once you understand how environments shape human behavior, you'll never look at quiet people the same way again. Think about your own life. Have you ever sat silently through an entire dinner with one group of people, then talked nonstop with another group later that same day? Most people have, which means silence isn't always a personality trait.
Sometimes it's a response to the conditions around us. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that speaking is free. It isn't. Every conversation comes with a cost. Will people listen? Will they understand? Will they interrupt? Will they judge me? Will what I'm saying even matter? Most of these questions happen below conscious awareness. We don't actively think about them, but our brains do. And the answers influence how much we speak. When speaking feels rewarding, people naturally contribute more. When speaking feels risky, people naturally pull.
The same person can appear confident in one room and reserved in another. Funny with one group, serious with another, expressive in one setting, silent in the next. What changed wasn't necessarily the person. It was the environment. And that's where things become interesting. Because long before we decide what to say, our brains are already evaluating the people around us. Who gets respected? Who gets ignored? Who dominates conversations? Who gets laughed at? Who actually listens? This process happens remarkably fast. Psychologists often describe it as social monitoring. Our brains are constantly scanning for signals that tell us whether speaking is safe or risky. That tendency exists for a reason. For most of human history, social rejection wasn't just uncomfortable. It could have serious consequences. Being excluded from a group could mean losing protection, resources, or opportunities. Modern life is very different, but our brains still carry much of the same wiring. That's why many quiet people aren't lacking confidence. They're responding to signals that suggest this isn't a place where speaking feels worthwhile. And sometimes, those signals aren't coming from the present. They're coming from the past. This is something most people overlook. Silence is often learned. Imagine a child who gets interrupted every time they try to explain something. A teenager whose opinions are constantly dismissed. An employee whose ideas are repeatedly ignored. At first, they keep speaking. Then they speak a little less. Then less again. Eventually, they stop volunteering their thoughts altogether. Not because they have fewer ideas, not because they suddenly became shy, but because experience taught them that speaking changes nothing. Over time, the brain becomes efficient. It stops investing energy where it expects no return. The person may still have opinions, still have stories, still have insights, but they've learned to keep them to themselves. What's interesting is that this pattern can continue even after the environment changes. Someone can leave a judgmental workplace, leave a critical family, leave a toxic relationship, and still remain quiet because they're reacting to old experiences, not current reality. The past taught them caution, and caution became a habit. But here's the part that surprises most people. The right environment can completely transform how someone behaves. You've probably seen it happen. A person who barely speaks in public suddenly becomes energetic around close friends. Someone who seems reserved becomes funny, expressive, and impossible to stop talking. People often react with surprise. They say things like, "I didn't know you were like this," or "You're a completely different person." But are they really? Or are you finally seeing them in an environment where they don't feel the need to protect themselves? That's one of the most misunderstood truths about human behavior. People assume personality is fixed. In reality,
different environments reveal different parts of the same person.
The quiet version, the confident version, the playful version, the thoughtful version, the vulnerable version. They're all real. The environment simply determines which one appears. So why are some people quiet? Sometimes it is personality, but often it's something else. A response to the environment, a response to past experiences, a response to how safe, respected, understood, and valued they feel. That's why judging someone's character based solely on how much they talk can be deeply misleading. You may not be looking at who they truly are. You may be looking at who they've learned to become in that particular environment. And that's an important difference. Because the quietest person in the room may not need more confidence. They may simply need the right environment for their voice to emerge.